This is Defiance Daily Dispatches for the Defiant. I am your host, Miles Taylor, and today the president has threatened to expand U.S. targeting in Iran beyond military sites to include energy infrastructure and even water facilities. At the same time, his own Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, is describing a completely different objective for this war. And while that confusion continues to play out at the top, the situation on the ground keeps moving. Iran is still controlling access through the Strait of Hormuz, delaying everything from critical oil to fertilizer for food and crop growth. And Iran is now making more money off of that oil than before this war even started. Meanwhile, U.S. policy on energy is shifting in real time, even allowing Russian oil to move into Cuba. And then back here at home, there are early signs that not everyone in Trump's coalition is staying locked in. We're going to talk about all of that today, and we will be joined by Lev Parnas to discuss what's happening in Iran and what's happening here in our country. This is Defiance Daily Dispatches for the Defiant. We start off tonight with a strike from the very first day of this war that is now raising serious questions about how the war itself is being fought. New analysis shows the U.S. may have used a weapon never before deployed in combat, and that the intended military target may not have been the only thing hit. Here's BBC News with what is known so far about this controversial strike.
This is an Iranian military base, and this is a residential street about 150 meters away. It was on the street where a missile struck on the first day of the war. Part of an attack on the town, state media say killed at least 21 people, including several children. Now, experts say the weapon used in the attack likely belonged to the US. Here's what we know. On the afternoon of the 28th of February, there were at least 2 strikes on Lamed, a town in the south of Iran. One was on a residential street, which is where we can see the missile. Another strike hit a community sports hall, where state media report children were playing volleyball. Its intended target may have been an Iranian military base next door, but it appears undamaged in satellite imagery. According to multiple Iranian state media outlets, 4 children were among those killed that day, including 12-year-old El Hamzairi, an avid volleyball player. The youngest victim was reportedly 2 years old. Footage we verified of the aftermath of the sports hall strike shows the entire side of the building blackened. Damage can also be seen on the roof, with blast fragments in the surrounding area. According to experts, the weapon most likely used on the residential street was a US precision strike missile. It's also known as a PRISM. It can reach targets of up to 500 kilometers away. This war marks what's believed to be the first time this weapon has been used by the US military. That's according to the Department of Defense. We asked the US why it used a PRISM in a civilian area, but they declined to comment. America's most senior officer praised his troops' use of the system on the 13th of March.
In just the first 13 days of this operation, our artillery forces have made history. They fired the first precision strike missiles ever used in combat.
And while U.S. officials have said collateral damage against civilians is accidental in the conflict, questions are swirling about whether that will continue to be the case, especially because in response to Iran rejecting U.S. peace demands, the president is once again escalating his threats beyond ostensibly military targets. In a series of statements today, Donald Trump warned that if a deal was not reached shortly, the United States could expand its targets beyond those core military sites to include things like Iran's energy infrastructure and oil facilities, and even the desalination plants that supply drinking water to civilians. These aren't minor targets. In fact, some people would say this would be a violation of war for Donald Trump to expand to targeting civilian infrastructure. Desalination plants are critical for access to clean water across the region. Energy infrastructure, which underpins civilian life like hospitals, homes, and entire cities, sure, also funds military sites, but how do you disaggregate the two? Well, the answer is you can't. And under those laws of armed conflict, striking that kind of infrastructure carries a high legal threshold because of the potential and obvious harm to civilians. So the question now is not just what happened in that earlier strike, in those earlier days of the war. It's what could come next. And it's whether there has been a policy all along from the top to go after civilians, irrespective of the targeting analysis done by DOD. That's what prompted this exchange at today's press briefing.
The president posted this morning about, his threat that on leaving Iran, he said we might blowing up and completely obliterating all of their electric generating plants, oil wells, Harg Island, and possibly all desalinization plants. Under international law, striking civilian infrastructure like that is generally prohibited. Why is the president threatening what would amount to potentially a war crime with the U.S. military? And how do you square that with the administration repeatedly saying that the U.S. does not target civilians?
Look, the president has made it quite clear to the Iranian regime at this moment in time, as evidenced by the statement that you just read, that their best move is to make a deal, or else the United States Armed Forces has capabilities beyond their wildest imagination, and the president is not afraid to use them. That's not what I said, Garrett, and you're saying the word potential for a reason, because I'm sure some experts are telling you that in your ear to try to ask me that question. Of course, this administration and the United States Armed Forces will always act within the confines of the law. But with respect to achieving the full objectives of Operation Epic Fury, President Trump is going to move forward unabated, and he expects the Iranian regime to make a deal with the administration.
To that end, which of those objectives would destroying a desalinization plant most help?
Haley, go ahead.
I'm going to tell you right now, Caroline Levitt doesn't know what she's talking about, because I have sat there in meetings with Donald Trump in his Oval Office when he talked about his anger and frustration over the rules of engagement, when he talked about targeting civilians right here on our own territory with lethal force, even if they are unarmed. It's why you saw in a second Trump administration at the start so much conversation at the Defense Department about loosening the rules of engagement. It's not because Pete Hegseth came up with that himself. It's because it comes from the very top. We are now seeing that projected onto an armed conflict. The question is, where are military officials right now? Are they telling the president that this would be an obvious war crime to go blow up the water and energy resources of civilians? Sure hope so. In addition to potential war crimes, Trump is weighing a potential military operation on the ground to seize Iran's enriched uranium, a move that could require U.S. troops inside of Iran for days or longer and risk direct confrontation. And as those threats escalate, there's another problem inside the administration itself. They're not even speaking with one clear voice about what this war is supposed to achieve. In an interview with ABC News, Secretary of State Marco Rubio said the clerical regime that has led Iran for decades is the foundational problem. He said that if new leaders were to emerge during the war with a more positive vision for Iran's future, he would welcome that, but also made clear the United States is prepared for the possibility and maybe even the probability that the current leadership team remains in place in Iran. That's very different from what the president is saying. Donald Trump has already claimed that regime change in Iran has effectively been achieved because there's so many top leaders that have been killed in U.S. and Israeli strikes. And this contradiction is not going unnoticed. In that same ABC News interview, George Stephanopoulos pressed Rubio directly, asking how the administration could be talking about negotiations with more reasonable leaders while also describing the current regime as the core of the problem. Rubio, of course, did not resolve this tension. Instead, he pointed to private conversations and fractures inside of Iran. So you have a Secretary of State saying that the regime is still the problem, a president suggesting that objective has already been achieved, and a strategy that is becoming more aggressive by the day. I want to bring into my Defiance.org co-founder, Xander Schultz, into the conversation. Xander, this just goes to show you that early on when people said, well, it was the fog of war, that was the reason that the administration wasn't aligned on what they were saying about their strategy. Right. Well, is it still foggy a month in? It's still foggy? Are they still not talking to each other about what the goals are? I think the real answer is just Donald Trump day to day cannot decide what he's trying to do, and he can't figure out how he wants to define the end game. So he's just moving the goalpost.
I think you nailed it. I think they leave that room feeling like they're on the same page, and then Donald Trump changes his mind at 2 a.m. on True Social and says something completely different. It's probably a absolute. I mean, Miles, you lived it. It's an absolute nightmare. I'm sure this guy is your boss trying to keep up with his decision making. I feel like, Miles, we're starting to enter with Trump threatening to hit civilian infrastructure. We're starting to enter Trump's like invasion of Czechoslovakia moment, where the world goes from kind of passive observer and not sure if they want to get in the way to we might have to get together to do something about this between him, starving the Cubans currently and what's happening in Iran, threatening to hurt individuals. We would never catch wind of what those conversations are like, but I imagine they're happening around the world.
They've got to be, and they should be. I mean, I alluded to in the opening there, the fact that there were these conversations about striking civilians. I'm not the only one. You've heard it from me and Mark Esper and other officials that heard Trump at various points in time wanting to shoot civilians, including in U.S. streets during protests, including at the border when people were coming across the border. I mean, this is something that replays in his head all the time, that he can get leverage if he's killing innocent people and send some sort of deterrent message. This is just blatantly illegal. I can't even believe we're talking about it out loud. I mean, we would be talking about this if it was a third world country in the context of, well, we're going to go in and arrest that leader for crimes, or we're going to work with the international community to hold them accountable for engaging in deliberate strikes against civilians. And now the leader of the free world is just posting on social media about how that's effectively his plan. That's what he's intending to do. I mean, that's the type of stuff that senior military officials should be resigning over. Yeah. And hopefully they think that they're able to get that back in the box, but I don't have a lot of confidence in that. And already I think there's enough indicators that the way that these strikes were pursued from the beginning displayed let's call it a lack of consideration. And
totally. Yeah, it was interesting seeing that military leader pound his chest about a precision missile when we all know it's been documented that missile killed 100+ school children. It's an insane thing to I was thinking about this actually as I was watching all this news. It's such an interesting era for information in general. Like, misinformation is running wild due to social media algorithms, but it's also very hard for any administration to have the kind of top-down unquestioned propaganda that they could even, can think about 50 years ago, where it took almost 4 or 5 years for us to get, real stories coming out of Nam that the mainstream media was covering. You just can't do it in the same way anymore. We're getting videos out of Iran day of. You're getting, new media leaders from across the spectrum reporting on these things. And so in some ways, we are so vulnerable to misinformation, but we're kind of impervious to the type of top-down 1984 misinformation that I think we were dreading in an authoritarian regime for a long time. What's your thoughts? I know they're trying to also do that through media consolidation and whatnot, but it does feel like, they're almost running a playbook that might have worked in like the early 60s, if they were doing Vietnam, but it just doesn't work. We know about what's going on day of.
Yeah. I think that shows in the poll numbers. I think that shows in the poll numbers. Yes. Donald Trump is from another era. He's on the cusp of 80 years old, and he thinks that he can tell the world what's happening in the war, and the world will believe him. Again, you got 92% of Americans, according to a CBS poll last week, that want this war to end ASAP. This is the least popular war an American president has ever started. And it's getting worse by the day. And he's having trouble hiding it. I think that's why you're also seeing him getting increasingly frustrated and desperately striking out to regain leverage in the conflict by either seizing Carg Island or going and seizing their highly enriched uranium, or trying to find these other pressure points so he can say he got leverage and cut a deal. But here's the thing, Xander, as we'll talk about a little bit later, whatever deal Donald Trump gets, it sounds like what has been proposed is not terribly far off from the Iran nuclear deal that Donald Trump already inherited from Barack Obama when he came into office and scrapped in his second year in office. He already basically had this deal, threw it away.
This is what he does, though. This is what he does. He takes good things, tears them up, and renames them. We had the NAFTA. He created the USMCA, which was a shittier version of NAFTA. We had the UN. He created the Board of Peace, which is run by a bunch of dictators. So this is kind of what he does. He's like, he tears up a good thing, tries to run some freaking wild strategy that has nothing to do with what's possible in reality, and then quickly understands why the thing was there in the first place, then rebuilds a shittier version after damage has been done. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's just a lot more consequential when it's a nation at war. Yes. Agree with you. Well, here's another piece of bad news in the conflict, Xander, which is on oil. And the Iranians in this conflict seem to have gained some additional leverage by exercising power in the Strait of Hormuz that they hadn't previously. exercised. In fact, it now looks like the Strait of Hormuz that Iran has long threatened to interrupt has been remade into an Iranian toll road, to make money and exert more control. In fact, over the weekend, multiple large commercial vessels, including Chinese-owned container ships capable of carrying roughly 20,000 containers each, approached the Strait of Hormuz and were turned away by Iranian forces. They did not pass. They waited. Only after sitting at anchorage for days, where some of these ships were later allowed through, including vessels operated by China's state-owned COSCO Shipping, did it become clear that the Iranians were exercising selective enforcement. Additionally, a Chinese-owned bulk carrier and a small number of other vessels from countries like India and Russia were permitted to pass. And that matters because, again, it shows this is not a full blockade. It shows that the Iranians are deciding who gets to go through and who doesn't in real time. That's leverage. Now, this is where it gets worse for the Trump administration's argument, because the goal of this war was to weaken Iran's economy. It was to weaken Iran's economic hold on the region and even the Strait of Hormuz. But the opposite is happening. New reporting shows that Iran is earning nearly twice as much from oil sales each day as it was before the war began. Twice as much. Why? Because while other countries are blocked from moving oil, Iran has kept its own exports flowing, often through China, and is selling at higher wartime prices. So while global supply tightens, Iran's revenues are going up. Iran's control in the region is going up. And in some cases, they're even exploring charging ships for passage through the strait. Like I said, they're exploring building a toll road. So they're not just surviving this economically, they're profiting from this war. And then there's the third piece, because while this is happening in the Middle East, U.S. policy is breaking down somewhere else entirely. Over the weekend, a sanctioned Russian tanker carrying hundreds of thousands of barrels of crude oil was allowed to enter Cuba after the United States chose not to intervene. This is after months of blocking oil shipments that left Cuba dealing with blackouts and fuel shortages. When confronted on Air Force One last night over this contradiction, Trump played it off, saying he has no problem with countries like Russia sending in oil. Xander, I've got to get your thoughts on this one too. We have spent decades putting in place the architecture of sanctions against hostile governments like the Iranians and the Russians to try to make their oil less enticing to the world and to try to make friendly nations more equipped to sell oil. And because of Trump's bumbling excuse of a justification for this conflict in Iran, we've reversed it. We've given our adversaries carte blanche to go sell oil around the world. Their oil is getting more expensive. They're profiting from it more. And they're the ones to fill the supply shortages while we're being held off. I mean, it's like in 30 days, he's inverted the global sanctions regime to benefit our adversaries and to hurt our allies.
Yeah, it's almost Taki gone global, huh, Miles? Trump attacks create icons gone global. Everyone he attacks gets stronger domestically. It looks like it's happening internationally as well. I think this is why countries build alliances and build partnerships based on if you have a shared ideology and a shared vision for the economy and governing structures and whatnot. Because if you are so transactional from day to day and you're chasing whatever your goal is, there can be no consistent strategy long term. If your goal is taking out the Iran regime today and then it's affordability tomorrow, and you're partnering with Russia and allowing for oil supplies to flow from Iran the next day, yeah, it's not going to be a successful strategy. I wouldn't hire Trump to be my freaking janitor. I went this guy's not only not qualified to lead the country, is he qualified to do anything? Like, this guy's the least employable person on the planet, and somehow he's grabbed this office freaking twice. It's incredible.
It's stunning, and I have to say, also, Xander, it's more directly. I think I said this the other week. He's like paying our abusers to hit us. I mean, I don't know how else you would put it.
Yeah. It's not, I mean, like, Miles, to you, I know like your default experience with him is he's bumbling and there's no cohesive strategy. Is there something we're not seeing though when it comes to Russia? I know that's like question. I'm not the first person to ask this, but it does feel like he's found several opportunities along the way to support the Russians and withdraw support from Ukraine. And I guess like I've got to ask the question as I see all of this playing out, like, is he doing it in kind of in moments where he feels like it will be permitted because he can't do it in one bite-sized chunk? What's your thoughts on that? That's always been kind of a question. That's been a question, honestly, since this 2016 election. What was your read on that when you were in there, and what's your assessment now?
There's no plan. Xander, there's no plan. there's no plan. We can laugh about it. We can cry about it. There's no plan. But look, hold on. I want us to ask our guest that. But
that's a great idea.
Before we do, I want to point out one piece of good news here, because this guy doesn't get to keep doing these things without losing his own base of support. And that's exactly what's happening. And it's not just on the Iran war, which we are seeing. I ran into a 3-time MAGA voter at the No Kings Day rallies who said it was Iran. It's the straw that broke the camel's back for him. The president had been saying forever wars. They were over. And then here he is in Iran. And now, Xander, you and I have been talking about this, but there's another place where cracks are showing. And a new national poll finds frustration, even among voters who helped put Trump back in office, on one critical thing in particular, and that's the administration's Make America Healthy Again initiative. In fact, a 41% plurality of Trump's own 2024 voters say the administration has not done enough to deliver on those promises on health. And it goes further than that. The same polling shows many of those voters believe Democrats are actually better positioned on key issues tied to that movement, including public health and regulation of chemicals and food safety. So these aren't fringe voters. They're the people inside Trump's core coalition, and they're starting to question whether the administration is delivering at all. I mean, Xander, you talk about the Maha moms breaking from Trump, and we're seeing that. And then layer into that what we're seeing when people are presented with the opportunity to speak out against the administration. Let me tell you one in particular. At CPAC in Texas this week, one of the most reliably pro-Trump spaces in the country, something hilarious and unexpected happened. The crowd was asked a simple question from the stage, and take a look at how they responded.
Thanks, Mike. Thank you. How many of you would like to see impeachment hearings? No. That was the wrong answer. Let me try it again. How many of you would like to see impeachment hearings? No. Can someone bring some coffee out for the people at CPAC?
I know.
We've got to keep this House majority. How many of you agree with that? We got to keep.
I want to bring into the conversation American businessman, Trump dissident, and congressional candidate Lev Parnas. Lev, welcome to the program with me and Xander. How are you?
Hey, Miles. Thank you for having me, Xander. How are you?
Good to see you.
I gotta get your reaction to that. Was that intentional? Is the crowd at CPAC excited to impeach the president? I kind of felt like there was maybe some notes of dissent there in the audience.
We've come a long way since I was at CPAC.
Everyone knows democracy in action. You tell the crowd what to think. You go, no, wrong answer.
Right.
Try again.
You're good.
Yeah.
Well, Lev, tell me this. Look, first, I want to hear from you about the fact that you've launched a congressional campaign amidst all of this craziness. A year into Donald Trump's second administration. Are you seeing that dissatisfaction on the ground as you're out there campaigning? Are you seeing people who were one-time reliable Trump voters breaking away from him because of all of these violations of the promises that he made, even to his core audience?
It's incredible. Absolutely, Miles. I live in Trump country, actually, here. I live in his backyard, and I could tell you the shift that we've been seeing in the past, I'd say even 6 months, 7 months specifically, with what was going on with his immigration policies, with ICE, the tariffs, and then obviously what transpired with this war in Iran. You're seeing a lot of people that are just saying, I've had it enough with him. It doesn't, and I want to make it clear, it doesn't mean that these people are ready to go vote for Democrats or ready, jump on the board. That's what we still need. We can't just think, but yes, there is a major rift of people, not only MAGA, but just regular people that were voting for him here in his backyard.
Lev, I want to drill into that. You say there's a major rift there. What, as someone who's been in these places, you've been to CPAC, you understand this community. Sometimes I'm kind of guessing from the outside which narratives matter, which stories matter, which even qualities and characteristics of Trump we should be zeroing in on. If the goal is to break apart his coalition, which part of that coalition you think is kind of the most worthy of investment, and what narratives are most important to highlight?
Well, I think it's not so much right now his coalition that we have to worry about. I think we broke his coalition. I'll be honest with you. I think if, with God's help, if we're allowed to have true and honest elections, I don't think he has a shot. I think with what's happened, we're seeing it happen in the special elections. We're seeing, the voting, we're flipping places where he was plus 20. Just right here in Palm Beach County, we saw what happened just a few days ago. So I'm more concerned about to be able to get to that point, knowing Donald Trump, knowing, Miles knows him very well also. My concern is to be able to have the midterm elections, to be able to get there. That's why I keep sounding the alarm every single day that, we need to concentrate. Just think about the majority that they have. It's so slim. You're talking about 1 or 2 votes could change this whole thing around. We were able to do it when it came to the Epstein files. We should be able to do it when it comes to this war. We should be able to do it, to start to have accountability. And the problem is, I don't think there's enough leadership and enough fighters in the Democratic Party right now that are able to go up there and really stand up to these people, and they're allowing them to play. We should be able to do it right now. I think that's the most important part, because, just think about how many soldiers have to die, how many of our kids have to go overseas to die, how many more people, innocent people around the world, in Ukraine, Middle East, Palestine, Israel. It's happening everywhere now. It's nowhere is safe. Saudi Arabia, everywhere is like Dubai, you name it. Even in Iran, you're talking about where we were supposed to just think about how we started this thing. We started this thing by Donald Trump coming out because there was literally riots in the streets with people standing up, wanting to get their democracy back. And Donald Trump said to them, you keep doing that, and I'm going to support you. And then what happened? All of a sudden, you started getting people getting killed, hanging, because Donald Trump lied, just like he always does, because it wasn't about the people. It was all, being coordinated, which, I think we'll get to in a little bit, by the real mastermind behind all this, because Miles is 100% right. Donald Trump doesn't have a plan. There are other people that have a plan here. People like Stephen Miller and Russell Vought and others are behind him that are really running the administration right now. There are people like Vladimir Putin that have been dangling him by the nose by using his operatives like Stephen Witkoff, Jared Kushner, through Kirill Dmitriev and others, and people like MBS and Netanyahu. This is not just overnight. There's some serious, powerful people around the world that are using Donald Trump as a ploy to be able to. And at the end of the day, we laugh at him because he is a clown. He has no plan. He wants to get the praise, get the Nobel Peace Prize. He wants to get some golden ticket. That's what he's looking for. But at the end of the day, the suffering that's happening all over the world and here at home is it's real. It's not a joke. And that's why I say we do it now. And that's why I love what you guys doing, the fight that you guys do at defiance.org. You're fighting every day. It's, we're not waiting till 9 months from now to see what happens. We don't know what's going to happen. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, Lev, speaking of fights, tell me about Florida here, because I saw that you were with gubernatorial candidate David Jolly, a mutual friend of ours, the other day, who's running for governor there in Florida, and Jamie Raskin was down there on the campaign trail with y'all. It seems like Florida, in the Trump era, has gone deeper red, but now there's a chance to flip some seats here, to flip the governor's mansion. Florida's back in play. Why?
Because I think people are starting to realize that Donald Trump lied to them. I mean, people are not stupid, and because of everything. If you take a look from A to Z from our economy, I mean, people are when you're filling up your gas tank and it's costing you $100 or $80 to fill up your gas tank, when prices are going through the roof, where you have people, your neighbors, that are scared to send their kids to a local taco stand because they might get picked up off the street and thrown into an ICE detention. When your governor is running around building, Alcatraz alleys instead of, where healthcare, you have the governor literally hiring the health committee. I mean, one of the biggest thing, the applause that our next governor here, David Jolly, got at one of the rallies we had is he said, the first thing I do when I come into office, I'm going to get rid of the health commissioner of the Florida. I mean, the guy just got rid of vaccinations while we're having measles outbreaks all over the country. So when you say why, I could give you a whole reason why, but the number one thing is I think people are starting to realize, because of great organizations like yourselves that are out there, that are sounding the alarm, letting your voices be heard. And the protest, I mean, No Kings rally was amazing. I'm saying to you. But the one thing I say, and that's why you guys come in and are so important, is we need to keep the rally going. We can't just have the one day and then wait till the next big day. We need every day of action. Like the one thing that, our group of volunteers are doing, I could share with you guys if you want to, I think is great, is we're picking a few Congress people every day, and we're going to flood their phones. We're going to flood their phones. We're going to flood their emails. 10,000, enough is enough. We need action now, because if we could flip 1, 2, 3, we don't need them to go Democratic. Just vote for accountability.
Yeah.
If you were able to vote to get Pam Bondi a subpoena, if you were able to vote to get the Epstein stuff, we should be able to hold accountability before we're sending our young troops, our young kids into, harm's way. Because at the end of the day, this is all about oil. This is all about power, and not for us folks, for people inside of Trump's inner circle and oligarchs are surrounding people like Vladimir Putin and others.
Lev, you said earlier you didn't think the Democratic Party is fighting like it should be. If you could wave a wand and they start behaving as you think they should, what would they be doing differently? Like, what are the top 3 things you'd like to be seeing from that party right now?
Well, the number one thing is stop being reactive. Be proactive. They sit out there every day and wait for Donald Trump to come out there and make some kind of breaking news, and then they're out there reacting to it, trying to figure out how they could say it's not true. They have to go out there and have their own initiatives. Go out there, talk to the people. Stop saying Donald Trump is this, but come out and say how you're going to help it, how you're going to save it, what are you going to do to fix it, what needs to be happening. Instead of just trying to say Donald Trump is bad. Second thing is, again, you need a coalition. You need unification. Right now, you have so much division inside the Democratic Party. The only reason we are winning, the only reason we are, is because Trump is worse than we are, because his numbers are more underwater than the Democrats. It's not because the Democrats are being loved so much. It's because people are frustrated with both parties, because at the end of the day, why are we here? We're here because the Democrats allowed Trump to get here, because they didn't know the beast that they were dealing with. They allowed him to get to where you have to take the gloves off. We need some fighters in the House. We have to expose the corruption. The corruption starts with money, guys. The number one thing, the first thing that I would do is coming in there is to stop with these special interests, super PACs, and all of this, because that's the first influence that comes in there to start taking our country apart. Second thing is term limits. We cannot have guys sitting there for 40, 50 years, 30 years, because they become corrupt automatically. When you have somebody sitting in a position that long, he has made deals on back inside. That time has changed. We need new blood. We need young people in there. We need Gen Z. We need people in there that are ready to fight for what they believe in, and not just sit back and just take it for what it is. And so, there's one thing I could tell you. A lot of us on the campaign trail are going to agree on the same thing. We all agree that we don't want this war. We all agree that we want a better economy. We all agree that we don't want ICE. We all agree about all these things. But the difference is, can we make the change? Who can come in there and not be scared to stand up and fight for Donald Trump? And we need people like Harry Dunn, a guy that's proven that he's not scared. We don't need politicians right now. We need fighters. We need people 100%. That have proven to get up there. And that's why I decided to run, because, I've been fighting, standing up to Donald Trump and his whole administration. And it's not just Donald Trump, guys. It's the whole cabal. Because Miles will tell you, it's all the way down in Congress, state officials, local sheriffs, local county county officials. We need to go in there and we need to clean house. Just like we talk about, get rid of ICE. It's not that we need to abolish ICE. We need to get a different immigration service. Yes. But to do it, you have to clean house. You have to get rid of those, clean out the cancer. And that's why it's not just Donald Trump. We could get Donald Trump tomorrow, but the infused hate, the infused division that he's already infiltrated, that's where we gotta go. And that's why we need fighters in the House, in local, and that's why I say all the way down, not just the presidency, guys.
Miles, I know you have a question here, but before you jump, I just want to put something. Lev, keep talking about the corruption piece. I've been talking about this left and right. All the new entrants, that is why Trump was elected, to your point about the role Democrats played, or at least helped play, is people were sick of Washington, sick of corruption. That's why Drain the Swamp, that tagline, worked so effectively, and why people wanted an outsider that was willing to burn it down. Now we have a guy who's just burning down everything for the sake of burning it down, is more corrupt maybe than even the system he's replacing. But these new candidates, to your point, that weren't lifelong dreaming of being DC politicians and are stepping up because the country needs them, the more you and your peers can hammer corruption, the more I think it eases the work of Defiance and other kind of nonprofits and other organizations that are trying to set up as best we can a successful midterms, because there are options that are calling out the needs of Americans the way you just called it out. So keep hammering that, brother.
Amen. Thank you, Xander. Absolutely. That's the number one thing.
I was going to ask you, Lev, this weekend, you were out and about for No Kings. What was your takeaway? You saw, I'm sure like me, the crowds are bigger. People are more defiant. Yep. What do you think that signals right now? Do you think the tide is turning for the political opposition? We have that conversation all the time. Some people are more pessimistic. Some people are more optimistic. What was your sense after seeing the rallies this weekend?
The interesting part is the type of people that are coming out. Like I said, in No Kings 1, you had hardcore Democrats primarily. You saw a lot of people, and you saw even through the streets. I remember I was a guest speaker, one of the, in Palm Beach and No Kings 1. And I remember you still had a lot of support on the Trump side. No Kings 2, you saw less and less of it. What we saw, I think, in No Kings 3, not only was the numbers they're growing, I think, what was it, like 8 to 10 million people came out, which is incredible. But I think what we saw also it was more of a unified. It wasn't just pure Democrats. It was so many independents, so many people that you would speak to in the streets that you could tell that were, conservatives, Republicans, and still were standing. They might have not been standing in the streets with signs and going to that extent, but they came out. They would drive by, honk the horns, and you see more and more. The one thing I could tell you, the positive thing I see, Miles and Xander, is people are more and more starting to speak out, and less are scared to say. Because the one thing that I saw being in Trump world is a lot of communities, even my own family, myself being in that cult, is when you're so deep in, even if you don't agree with somebody, you have nowhere to say it to, because everybody around you, and that's part of that cult mentality, and are scared. But now you're starting to see people voice their opinion. So even though they might still say, yeah, I'm still going to vote for Trump, but he's such an asshole for this, or he's this for that, or which you did not see that before. And I see that as a tremendous opportunity to be able to now go in there and start saying, well, now we could agree on something. Now let's talk about your kids, your grandkids, and what it means, and other things, your health, because now you're starting to also see the biggest thing that we all as human beings don't realize. Until it happens to you, you don't think it's reality. Oh, it can't happen to me. Oh, my kid can't be picked up by ICE. Oh, my kid can't get measles. But now because of Trump's craziness, you're starting to see a lot of these results. People, a lot of the kids are getting measles. A lot of local people and friends and communities are getting picked up by ICE. Their kids are now being deployed into the Middle East. All of these things are starting to have an effect besides just the economic effect. And I think that is the opportunity we can't miss right now.
Yeah.
Well, Lev, I mean, in a way, it couldn't be this is a perverse thing, but it couldn't be a better environment for someone to run a grassroots campaign for Congress. I mean, we were saying this the other day. There's almost nowhere you can go in your community that is untouched by what Donald Trump has done in the world, to the economy, to our country. You go to the gas station, you feel the effects. You go to the airport, You feel the effects. You go to the grocery store. You feel the effects. You try to go downtown. You see, ICE officers sweeping people up that you didn't see before. I mean, everywhere you go, every store shelf, everything has been impacted by this guy's tariffs, his taxes, his wars, his unilateral actions against society, against the political opposition. It's everything. It's touched everything. And Democrats and Republicans, traditional Republicans, are getting frustrated with this. Republicans, we always said we wanted limited government. This is the most maximalist government that we have seen in our lifetimes. We're sick of it. I'm a libertarian conservative. This guy's not a conservative. He's not a Republican. He's a giant government guy. He never was. It was a lie. It was a lie.
It was always it was the big grift, the big fake, the big Lebowski.
And you see it with the Marjorie Taylor Greens that are now coming around. And they were duped by him for so long, but she's coming around and said, yeah, this guy's not a conservative at all. Of course he's not. He is a big government populist wannabe dictator. And I've got to think that for congressional candidates, this is the type of message that resonates regardless of someone's political affiliation, is get the damn government out of my life, at least the way that Donald Trump has injected into our lives.
I mean, absolutely, Miles. I mean, you see that more and more from people, and like I'm running a pure grassroots campaign, obviously, since I'm going against the corruption. And I can tell you, it's the one thing I'm also noticing, and I think we're seeing in the elections, is I'll give you an example. As soon as I announced, some of my sources started telling me that they started getting the war chest ready for Salazar, getting up to 10 million, maybe even for the race and stuff like that. But and think about that. But we're watching races where just recently here in Florida, the opponent had 3 million, and the person that won had 65,000 raised for the. So it's not only the money we're starting to see; it's the hard work. It's knocking on the doors. It's making sure getting that grassroots people out there, getting our voices out there, making sure people get to know, get to hear. And that's why your organization and like what you guys are doing is so important. Is boots on the ground, streets, because people need to hear. Because a lot of people are not on these platforms. We live in our echo chambers and thinking, just because we know everything, everybody knows everything. No, when you go out there in the street, people go out there are worried about how they're going to pay their bills, how they're going to, survive, who's sick in their family, how they're going to go on vacation, how they're going to end the school year, what are they going to do, stuff like that. And they only get a chance to watch the news, and they see clips. They see a big clip. Oh, breaking news. And that's what Donald Trump knows how to do. See, that's why Donald Trump changes the news cycle. And I know him well, and I was part of that whole media ploy. And that's why being part of now this side, that's why I try to tell the Democrats, you got to do the same thing. Take away that news cycle. Let the people, let the world see what are you doing. Don't let them see. Let him be and we had that for a while. If you remember, like when we had those few elections in New Jersey, Mississippi, he was on his butt. He was on everybody. He was like, we had that until all of a sudden the Democrats caved and gave him that win with the Congress. I mean, allowing him to get the money back. Long story short is we need to continue fighting, and we need our voices heard, and we need to stop being complicit. But we also have to just not concentrate on Donald Trump. We have over 200 members in Congress right now. We tend to concentrate on the big ones like Lauren Boebert and Nancy Mace. These are diehards. Leave them. There's another about 180 that are trying to slip quietly under the radar so you don't notice. That's who we're going to expose. That's my job, because I'm not only running a campaign for my district and District 27 and my constituents, but because of my knowledge and because of knowing his inner circle, Miles and Xander, I'm running on behalf of every race out there down the line. And it's not just the old regime. We're going to put fresh new Democrats and people that are ready to fight. We need a new Democratic Party. We need to get away from the establishment, because the establishment and the old regimes, that's what got us into this place to begin with. So we need fresh blood, and that's what my agenda is, not just to fight for it. And that's why grassroots is extremely important, because they have a lot planned, but we need to just stay strong, let our voices heard, and not give up.
I'm happy you brought up the special elections because the math on what's a swing district has certainly changed as Trump sabotaged so many different parts of society, as Miles was just laying out. The math on what's a swing district, it used to be kind of 35 seats out of the 400 were swing seats. And because of gerrymandering, there weren't that many swing districts. We've got to revisit those calculations. Before you go, though, I want to make sure, and Miles might have another follow-up question after this, but I want to make sure I ask you this. Look, at Defiance, we're all about taking action, as you mentioned, right? And we do lots of things. We're trying to defeat Trump's ability to build detention centers. We're trying to hold ICE agents accountable and prosecute them at the state level. But mostly, Miles and I have kind of circled around two strategies: too big to rig and protect the election. You said at the top of this, you think that the too big to rig, the turnout against Trump is going to be great. You're confident in that. You're worried about election protection. If you could pick something that we are specifically focused on, what about that issue are you most worried about that where something can be done about it?
We need to focus on Tulsi Gabbard. And I've been raising the alarm already for a while. Tulsi Gabbard, Trump has initiated a committee set up by Tulsi, Ratcliffe, Bondi, and Patel about 7 months ago. That's why you don't see Tulsi around. That's why you don't see her involved in Iran or the Middle East or Russia or Venezuela, because she's been working on what they call election reform, part of giving Trump what was laid out by Stephen Miller and others to be able to give him a platform to be able to try to federalize certain states in certain elections. Now, I've spoken to certain Democratic leadership that said they're scared of it, they're worried about it, but they understand that it's going to be a fight, court fight, state fight, might go to the Supreme Courts. But at the end of the day, that is the plan. And that's why I'm sounding the alarm that if we could get a few Congress people immediately over to get accountability, what is Tulsi Gabbard doing in Georgia? What is she doing? What's happening in Atlanta? What happened in Puerto Rico? Why? Who I'm hearing is speaking to Maduro? Why are they trying to get this guy Raul Gorin, which nobody knows about, brought over from Venezuela? What's going on with the case right now happening in where Marco Rubio's roommate, David Rivera, is now on trial here in Miami for a $50 million bribe into a Ballard and Associates lobbyist group where Susie Wiles was partnered in 2017 during my time. So this is all it's not coincidence, folks. This is all a coordination while he is happening here in Iran. So we need to, and I keep saying, while we could walk and chew gum at the same time. Yes, while the media is concentrating on the Epstein stuff, which is extremely important, Iran, all of these things that are happening, we should have people, and this is why I hope you guys help me with this, sound the alarm. What is Tulsi Gabbard doing? And Miles, you understand better than anybody when it comes to national security, just like you, Olivia, Troy. I'm saying to you, why is she involved? And the more we put the focus on that, the harder it's going to be for them to do it. Because what I'm hearing is they're trying to set up a plan where they're going to get either Gorin or Maduro or one of these high officials to come out and say basically Venezuela was involved in the 2020 election and the Smartmatic, blah 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 blah, and give them a platform. I'm not saying it's going to work, folks, but it's a whole shit can of worms that will open up, that will allow them, and that's all they want, because they need the action to be able to then the reaction, because behind the scenes you have guys like, and this is also the crazy part, what Stephen Miller and Russell Vaughn and this Federalists, they're out there trying to find loopholes in laws that are made 250-year laws that you wouldn't even think of, and how to try and manipulate and use it. So when we sit here and you see all these pundits and Democratic leaders right now, like you say, oh, they can't do this, oh, they can't do it. Every time they say they can't do it, they do it. So I'm saying to you, focus on our election, folks. That's the only thing we have left to be able to save our democracy.
Well, and we're right there with you. And for defiance.org members, I think next week we're going to be making some additional announcements about how we are putting forward more support to secure our elections against some of these wild rogue ideas the administration has. Here's the one upside, Lev. Because they've telegraphed this so much, we are so much more ready than we were in 2020. The thing Donald Trump had to his advantage in 2020 was the element of surprise. Republican candidates, not even his own chief of staff, thought he was going to contest the validity of the election. And because he did, he sent the system reeling, trying to catch up, and the diehards supported him while everyone else tried to figure out whether there was any truth to the lie. And he got really damn close. to making the country believe the election had been stolen, to at least delaying the transfer of power, that was thwarted. This time, we know. We know because he started the year saying that he wanted to recount the 2020 election, musing about seizing ballots, goes into Georgia, has the FBI take ballots. We know he's going to do this. And people like you are ready to call it out. Your average American is ready to remind their friends and neighbors, no, you have a right to vote. You can go vote. People are ready to sue across the country. And that's what we're going to try to help facilitate. Make sure people are prepared. Make sure candidates are prepared. Make sure the lawyers are ready to go. We're going to be ready for the moment that this happens to stop it from going forward. Lev, before we let you go, I would be remiss if we did not offer our heartfelt congratulations from the Defiance Daily community for the birth of your grandson. This is extremely exciting news. Dare I say, granddaughter. Can we call you Papa, or we can't call you that here?
Vote for Papa. That's catchy. I like vote for Papa.
I love it. Listen,
that swag would sell.
I can't even tell you guys. Thank you so much. It's been a crazy 36. I don't even know 72. I don't even know how long it's been already. It's been just an emotional ride. I'm so excited for my son to see him, and I know he's part of our whole family, and all of you guys love him. And thank you so much for the love and care for our whole family. And thank you. It's been amazing. And now they're all home. Thank God. Mama, Daddy, and my little princess, they're home. And thank you. Yeah. So it's exciting, but I know I'll tell you this one, and it's just to end off. I had a moment when I came to, we flew into Washington to surprise him, and when I was holding my granddaughter in my hands for that second, and I was watching Aaron standing in the corner, reporting some news like this quietly. I know it's funny, but at that moment it was like so surreal to me. And I looked into her, I looked at her, I looked at my wife, I looked at Aaron, I looked at my daughter-in-law, and we were sitting in the hospital. And I was thinking to her, I can't believe, that we're here, that we're at a time right now where, we're going through so much that, where women's rights are at stake, where our constitution's at stake, that we're, my son standing there in the middle while, can't even gravitate right now. His daughter's born, but he has to break because there's breaking news out there, because that's the choice he's made, and all of us, and that just gave me that even more drive. I could tell you that much. If you thought I was driven before, I even haven't. As grandpa right now, I want to leave a better world for our kids, and and I could tell you there's no stopping me. So I just want to tell everybody out there, we need more Defiance.org. We need more Miles Taylor, Xander Schultz, people like that. So please go out there, support this incredible platform, because they're out there helping making sure not only are we know what's going on, but that we could have a fair and square election, so we could get people like Harry Dunn, people like myself, fighters in there that could give us a chance, get our democracy back, and so we could have free and fair elections, folks.
Well, Papa Parnas, you're down there on the ground doing it, my friend. I hope we get a chance to check in with you again. We're eager to hear how things are coming along. Remind folks where they can find you.
Please go to levparnas.org, and always I will be here on our Substack channel at Lev Parnas at Substack. So please support levparnas.org. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Lev. Congratulations again, my friend.
I knew you'd find the alliteration in there.
That's your Papa Parnas. If I don't get a Papa Parnas sweater, I'm gonna make one. I'm just gonna make one. I'm gonna take. I'm gonna get a Sharpie, and I'm just gonna put it there. That's really cool, though. Nothing really compares to that. I mean, you and I have been through that not too long ago. But those little people come in and. Man, it just takes over. Everything. Everything gets less important and more important at the same time. I mean, I take what he was saying about democracy, the Constitution, and rights. Looking at her and thinking about the future, but also a lot of the pettiness fades away of the current moment.
Totally, yeah. You just don't have the energy for it. I mean, as two girl dads, relatively new girl dads, you just don't have the energy for it. You're just like onward, forward. How do we make progress? And hopefully we're setting them up for success in the future. It's funny, Lev mentioned. Zooming in on Tulsi. And he's like, what's she doing there? We had a whole episode where I think you said, what is she doing there? maybe 30 times. He was like, "Who knows better than you, Miles?" I remember that first episode when
Look, I don't want to boast for the Defiance community, but I mean, we were the earliest in calling out some of the craziness there. I mean, the moment that the Reuters picture popped out there, and we noticed that it was Tulsi Gabbard at that site. I think it was obvious to us what the bigger picture was and what was happening there and the significance of that moment. Yeah. And we still don't have answers to those questions. I was glad that Lev brought it up. I mean, we forget some of those things because we get 2 weeks out from a controversy and it feels like 2 years ago. But look, in the vein of
later.
I know. But in the vein of good news, man,
let's do it.
We talked with Lev about No Kings. And so you and I had an idea. And by that, I mean our producer, Mercedes, who's awesome, that in place of who's joining the Defiance today, we're not going to pick a bunch of randos to go talk about. We're going to pick Defiance.org members to be the ones joining the Defiance because you guys sent in a crazy crush of pictures from the No Kings protests. They did not disappoint. I wish we could show every single one of them. There was a lot that came in, and we get the notification emails on how many support notes are coming in, and it's like the support email inbox was flooded. At first, I think Xander was worried. He was like, "Oh my gosh, something's wrong! Like something is broken." And it was like, "No. These are photos."
The site down. What's happened?
Yeah, the site down. What's happening? Payment processing's not working. Let's look at a couple of these. So, founding member Jen bared the California sun for 2 miles in frog suits. Look at this. She even showed us photos from inside the suit, Xander, and I do have to say, Jen,
you've been in there before, Miles.
Yeah, there we go. I've been in that suit before. It can get hot, especially if the sun's out. Jen, I hope that that mini sauna there left you glowing as much as showing up for your community did. That is awesome, Jen. We loved those photos. Xander, what else did we see?
Mercedes, let's see some more. What we got in here?
We've got Defiance member Anne, who made cookies.
There we go. The cookies. This was one of my favorites.
And passed out Defiance QR codes. That was awesome. And loved that. I saw that, though, and I instantly saw how big the chocolate chips were. And it was like, it's like a switch flips in your brain. You're like, I have to eat that cookie right now.
It would not have been a good Defiance recruitment strategy if I was around that table. They would have all been crushed by me. Those are perfectly my type of cookies.
Taking the papers off. Yeah.
This is why, though, Miles, like just citizen-led or club member-led activations are better than anything that you and I can just kind of dream up in a lab. Just providing a platform. There's so many creative people out there with so many different things to offer. It's awesome. What else we got?
Let's see. We've got another Defiance member made not one but 2 signs supporting their Defiance mission badges. I loved seeing people print out their mission badges and put them on signs. There were several submissions from the group of people printing out their badges and taking credit for their badges. That was awesome to see. Yeah,
I love the badges showing up in the real world. Miles, were you an Eagle Scout? You feel like the type of guy that would be like a Boy Scout.
No,
did you ever do any of that?
But somehow badges just made it into our lexicon here.
How do like Boy Scouts or Eagle Scouts wear them? Are they on jackets? Or I'd love to get some swag with like the badges on there. It'd be great.
That's a great question. We should get our badges. I'm about to dig myself a hole here. We should get them printed for stitching, or ironing on. If we do it once a week, they've got to be.
It would be great.
Funny. Someone who's with us for a year, 50 or so badges or 40 or so badges. That's a lot to put on something. We should think about how that works. Open to suggestions. I know Denise did this too, which was great. That is awesome. Let's see. What other ones did we have? We had someone had an original Antifa.
Nice.
Showed up with a photo of a World War II Air Corps member. That is so cool. I love that. OG Antifa. That is amazing.
That feels brave. I like, we talk about, Club for the it feels brave to just be like, no, I'm going to call bullshit on this being a domestic terrorism organization. My sign's going to say Antifa on it, not just anti-fascist, but Antifa. That's freaking cool. That's awesome.
Yeah. In fact, if you are the Defiance.org member who submitted this sign, we really want to know if this is someone close to you, if this was a family member or relative. If you can email us back and let us know, we would love to feature that, especially if you have any story about this relative that was OG Antifa, if that is indeed the case. If not, it's an incredibly clever, fantastic sign, and we all want to steal it.
Miles, I gotta send you a video. I happened to be at my mom's house, who was taking care of her World War II veteran dad when January 6th happened. And I have a video of him watching January 6th taking place.
Oh, wow.
I think he's 97 at the time. Just pissed, just livid. I got to send you this video. It's only like 10 seconds, but it really encapsulated like this, the greatest generation, these guys who, even when he had dementia, he passed away now, but when he had really bad dementia, the one thing he remembered is he dug foxholes through France and Germany. He would tell you about that because it was such a tremendous stress on him and the men he was serving with. It was the one thing his brain wouldn't let him forget, that it was important to dig foxholes. A generation of men doing that to defeat authoritarianism. This guy sitting there watching, this maniac lead a coup against our nation. I'll find that and we can play it on another episode.
Yeah. Wow. I would love to see that. Also, one other thing that we might do is for all the other folks that sent in great photos, let me see if I can't create a big collage of all of them for us to put on this week. I'll drop them in. We just didn't have the time coming into the start of this week, but amazing submissions. Thank you everyone for being out there. I will say, for those of you who are in Washington, D.C., I'm sad I didn't get to see more of you. It was such a big crowd. It was an awesome crowd. The march across the bridge and then past the Lincoln Memorial and into DC was inspiring. It was iconic. I did run into a couple of Defiance.org members there, and I didn't catch your names. I'm so sorry if I said hello and thank you, and I forgot your names, but thank you for seeking me out at the front of that march. And it was wonderful to see people out there. And Xander, I'll tell you, I printed the wrong size sign. Did I already tell you that? Did you know that? Maybe you did. No, I printed too big of a sign. Mine was 4.5 feet by 4 feet or something like that, which I thought would be a nice big sign, but not too big. It's massive. It's massive. And so it was breezy in DC. And so it was like, I was forging ahead every time the wind, would like blow me over or it'd blow the sign into people. Yeah, it was a struggle, man. It was a struggle.
Yeah, but we're mostly digital activists here at Defiance, the two co-founders.
We're
new to the marching thing.
We got to get better at our sign game. But I'm keeping that thing. It didn't blow away. We got some time. Let's take some questions from Defiance.org members. If you are a Defiance.org member, you can post your questions in the chat. You have the privilege to post your questions in the chat when others don't. You also have the privilege, by the way, to join our monthly members meeting this Wednesday, but we'll get to that at the end. Kathy Boyce asks, I'm going to throw this one to you, Xander. Do you think there will be a blue wave for both the House and the Senate this fall? What do you think, Xander?
Certainly to some extent. I think a lot relies on what Lev just said. The willingness of that party to call out not just Trump and this reaction to Trump, but the underlying rot of Washington that so many people were frustrated with. So the more that party can embrace that, the better. Also, the more groups like Independent Veterans for America that we funded in the past can run folks that will resonate in districts that's not necessarily part of a blue wave. It's just making a district that wasn't going to be competitive with a viable candidate. We should invest a lot in pro-democracy candidates that are, working families parties candidate or independent candidates or, whoever is best to fight in those midterm battles. I think, we had Zach on from running for Senate in Iowa yesterday, Zach Walls, or Friday, excuse me. And I think he mentioned, look, a lot of this is not about the Democratic Party. It's about the individuals running in these elections, what they stand for, if they're able to, speak truth to power. Zach particularly said he was pro Chuck Schumer stepping down. I think a lot of people need to hear that. We can't wait for the Chuck Schumers and Hakeem Jeffries of the world to light the way towards a blue wave. It's going to be who emerges from these primaries, being honest champions of the American people, and then being able to rally the American people to their cause or their districts or their states, depending on what office they're running for. And so I think certainly because of Trump's missteps and how miserable everyone is because of his policies, we're going to see some sort of wave. But I'm hoping, and hopefully Defiance does a good job of finding the groups and the candidates and the people to support, that we get real champions of democracy, real champions for the American people coming through these primaries and into the generals. And that will generate the wave we need to win, not just now, but also maybe, start turning the ship, in these giant institutions in ways that restores some faith in our federal government and allows us to not do this, seesaw back and forth between authoritarianism and not.
We also, Xander, have a ridiculously unpopular president right now.
Yeah.
I mean, Donald Trump's approval rating today hit 33%. 33%. That's the kind of approval rating that an unpopular president gets at the end of 8 years. That was close to George W. Bush's rock bottom after 8 years of war. And Donald Trump's, just passed the first year mark of his second term, and he's already hit it. He is historically unpopular, and that also means he's going to carry down the entire GOP field going into the fall. He can try to rig this election. He can try to announce all of these different crazy measures, and he's still not going to be able to show that he's got popular support to win. I mean, we go back to that too big to rig slogan, which is there's going to be such turnout in these elections that it should be obvious that there was a wave, even if it's just looking at the exit polls, because the exit polls sometimes have been wrong, but we're talking about, percentage points. We're not talking about double digits. Yeah. And this should be the type of election where there are double digits, wins in some of these races. And if the exit polls show that, but the ballots come back and the counting shows something dramatically different, I mean, there's going to be red flags there. But I think we're going to far exceed. And I would hope, Kathy, that that's what you see. But that's also up to us, right? That's not inevitable. There's got to be this level of excitement. In fact, I would submit that the next No King's Day, or maybe the one after that, should be Election Day. Our friends at Indivisible should announce that Election Day that'll be what? Probably 3 or 4. That'll be probably No King's 5 by then. They should make it that day where people just pour through the streets and make sure they help each other go vote, and make it the biggest get out the vote day in history.
I'm
Xander,
so happy you mentioned that.
Yeah.
Miles, just real quick thought. I mean, I think No Kings 3 had bigger turnout than No Kings 2, but it wasn't a step function bigger. I think it was 8 million. A lot of people are using that number. Yeah, that's about when you think about total population that are engaged on that level that are marching. So that's about as high as it's going to get. Now, this next phase is really about kind of what Lev was talking about. Can that 8 million, including the 100,000 plus Defiance supporters, be organizers? Can we shift from being engaged citizens to organizers of our own communities? Yeah. Can we make sure they turn out for their primaries? Can we make sure they turn out for the general? Can we make sure they turn out for a city council member or some meeting? I'm sorry, in some sort of local government meeting? Can they get up? Can they help their community get up on the issues? If you turned out for No Kings 3, and if you're listening to this, you turned out for No Kings 3, we need to start shifting, our own personal strategies from just staying as informed as possible personally to really listing out some folks, and Defiance is going to do things to help this. Listing out some folks that are in your network. I brought 3 new people who have never been to a No Kings March to a No Kings March, but that's not the end of my relationship, my civic relationship with them. Now, they live in the same district as me. I've got to get them up on, when our primary vote is, what are the issues, who are the candidates, why they should vote there. And so Defiance certainly that's, me and Miles haven't talked about this at length because we just marched yesterday, but we're going to play a role in helping you be a better civic organizer and community organizer, because, I think Indivisible has done a tremendous job. And I know it's not just Indivisible, the coalition behind No Kings has done a tremendous job helping 8 million people identify as civically engaged people. And the next step really is in, our own activity and actions from now to the midterms.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right, my friend. Regina asks, how can our Congress go home on a 2-week spring break when we are at war? For sure, midterms are critical. But in the immediate present, can anything be? Can anything wake up our Republican congressmen? I call my Utah senators and congressmen every day. Wow, Regina, I mean,
good job writing them every day. Hell yeah.
Hell yeah to that. And it is breathtaking stupidity. I have seen a lot of dumb things happen in Washington, but bailing out of town while the Department of Homeland Security is shut down, while lines at the airports are spiraling, while America is at war, egregious mistake. Egregious mistake is they should have stayed in town, made sure they, hatched a deal on the shutdown no matter what, regardless of what Trump says he's doing to go pay TSA agents, which, by the way, this doesn't solve the problem. It temporarily does, but Donald Trump can't go find enough money under the couch cushions of DHS to pay TSA for months and months and months. It doesn't exist. I'm telling you, having run that department, it doesn't exist. They maybe bought themselves, I don't know, a couple of days or a couple of weeks. The longer they think they bought themselves, the more illegal it is. In other words, there is some money under the couch cushions at DHS that you're allowed to spend and isn't segmented in certain accounts, but not much. Most of it is designated for specific purposes. So if Congress says this dollar is for FEMA, the president is not allowed under the law to say, yeah, but I'm going to take it from FEMA to pay TSA. You can't do that. And so they bought themselves just a limited period where there's going to be this cockamamie solution to give them a couple of paychecks. Doesn't solve the problem. Congress should have stayed in town. They should have stayed to also deal with things related to the war. Regina, you're absolutely right. And look, I think this is one more thing they are going to pay for come November, is I would be running that ad every single day if I was a Lev Parnas or a Harry Dunn or any of these other people who were running for Congress. I would run an ad that just showed, Lindsey Graham at Disney World, which is where he was over the weekend, holding a little pink baton. Why the hell are you at Disney World? Why aren't you in Washington? Why aren't you demanding your colleagues stay? That stuff is going to be in attack ads all November. So
yeah, I think you said that. I don't have much to add there, Miles. I think you said, but it's like the Gilded Ages bullshit that everyone was tired of, like to the max. So I think you said it perfectly. This is all fuel. This is all midterms fuel. Use it in attack ads. Use it to kind of show exactly how aligned or misaligned these individuals are from everyday Americans, and crush them with it.
Xander, I got one for you. Ann Lees asks, is Defiance.org already collaborating with Leaders We Deserve? And we are. We're one of our grantees.
We are. We had David Hogg on a mission briefing where we were talking about kind of young people turnout and the need for it this upcoming election. I was just thinking about them today. I reached out to our friends at Sunrise Movement. One of the most powerful things you can do at times of war, especially when a draft is being floated around, is organize the youth. This is why like the 60s and 70s had such a powerful young people's movement. There was a draft. People's asses were on the line. Young people's asses were on the line. And so, I'm not saying there's going to be a draft now, but it's being floated. Young people are being sent to a faraway land to go fight and die for a reason we don't understand. And so it's a great time to bring David back onto the program, bring Aru from Sunrise Movement back onto the program, our friend Santiago from Voters of Tomorrow. These are all great organizations, even if Defiance, independent from Defiance supporting them, you should check out those organizations. Think about funding them independently. Run for Something, another great group that pushes young people to run for office. And so, that's going to be a big strategy, organizing the youth, especially in times of conflict, from now all the way to the midterms.
I think I added the link into the chat, Anne, of the episode where we provided support to Leaders We Deserve. And we will have them here soon to do a follow-up. And in fact, it's one of the things we're going to be doing more with Defiance.org members. Over the next couple of weeks, you're going to be hearing more from the organizations we've partnered with or given grants to, who are coming back to report, here's the successes we've had, here's what we've done. We've had some of that, but now we've got more of these folks whose projects have come to fruition, whose efforts we've supported are bearing fruit, and you're going to hear from more of them, including this Wednesday at our Defiance.org monthly members meeting. Why don't I just take this opportunity to plug that, Xander? By the way, I don't know if that went through on the chat. I'm having a weird time with my browser, but I tried to put the link in there. Okay, cool. I think I put it in there twice then. This Wednesday, especially if you're new to the Club for the Courageous, it will be your first monthly members meeting if you haven't joined us before. So Wednesday at 5 p.m. Eastern, in place of this episode of Defiance Daily, we will have the monthly members meeting. Now, I know that time is not the easiest for some folks. I know some folks would like it to be a little bit later so they can join. But let me tell you this. If you can't join Wednesday at 5 p.m. Eastern for the monthly members meeting, that's okay, because we will post the next morning to recap, and we will also have a survey to allow you to vote on the topic areas that we are going to fund next. So fear not, you will not miss it. You will not miss your opportunity to weigh in. But if you are able to join us live, you're going to hear from a number of our recent organizations that we have partnered with. You're going to hear the impact of what they are doing, how you have helped support that. And we will have a sprawling conversation about the different ways that we can hold Donald Trump accountable for his abuses of power. And we want your feedback. These meetings are all about you coming in and telling us your best ideas. Every single thing that was brought up in the last members meeting, each topic that came away as a key area you want us to invest in, we have something underway. We either already announced it, or there's something underway to check I don't want to just say check the box, but to do something significant on one of those topic areas that you brought up. So if you go back to defiance.news and you go to the action section where we post all those monthly member meetings, and you look at last month, we're doing something on every single one of those topics that came up from members, which actually, Xander, kind of leads into the next question there from Gen27, who says, can we throw a State of the Swamp style party leading up to the 4th of July? An America to believe in, pretty please. I don't know if we're necessarily going to have exactly that type of thing, but we do have something we're planning for the 4th of July. So Xander, I don't know if you want to dance around that, but we are indeed thinking of a major activation around the 4th, which we hope to announce in April. Is that right?
Yes, we are.
Say?
Yes,
we're going to announce it in
April?
April?
Say yes. We can say yes. Yeah. We are planning something like that. That's all we can say for right now. And some very cool people have already said they want to be a part of it. That's all. I think I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah,
very cool
I'll say if you watched our Defiance.org members helped sponsor something last week, the day before No Kings. Our friends at the Committee for the First Amendment, this group of 2,000 American celebrities who have stood up against Donald Trump's suppression of free speech. They threw this event, this protest in front of the Kennedy Center on Friday. Some of the organizers of that we are teaming up with to do something really special around the 4th of July. And this will also scratch the itch of a lot of you who've said, hey, we need to show more nationwide solidarity among the political opposition in this country. We need more opportunities like State of the Swamp. We need more opportunities like No Kings to keep the momentum going. Well, Xander and some of those organizers came up with what I think is one of the damn coolest ideas that I've heard since this all started. And like I just said, I think we intend to announce it in a couple of weeks so that we can plant the flag really early ahead of the 4th of July and get a lot of people involved in this big event and activation. But don't worry, you're not going to have to leave home or fly out to Washington to be a part of this. This will be a distributed activation. And Xander's sending me daggers like, that's it. Don't say anything else. Okay, fine. I won't say anything else. But we have another fun one this Wednesday. I will just note, I will say nothing else about this one, but I can hardly keep these secrets. I'm so excited. This Wednesday is April Fool's Day. So just don't think that we're going to forget about that. Don't think we're going to forget about that. So pay attention to your inboxes. Xander, you take the last one. How can we battle the grift with the current lawsuits like Flynn and the Proud Boys? The DOJ is just going to settle them, right? I don't know if you've been tracking on that story, Xander. If not, I'm happy to take that one.
I'll just answer with something generic. I was looking at my Substack feed, and I noticed like Mark Elias and all them are so good at saying, look, the solution is join us. And I think we should do it more often. If you're bothered by the grift or a number of these other things that are happening to our country, join defiance.org. We give actions weekly. Now we're moving into a rhythm where we're giving actions daily or every other day.
Every day.
We drive big missions weekly, and we help you fight back against this regime. We're going to continue to find more ways to do it, as I just mentioned earlier, not only at the national level, but figuring out how to support you in your organizing of your community and the people around you as we move towards the primaries and midterms. join us. We're thinking about this every day. Miles and I obsess over it. We text each other at night about how to do this. We listen to all of our members as we're about to do Wednesday to see what's on everyone's mind. We try to stay connected to the American people and fight back against where we see the issues, the abuses of power most prevalent, and where we can weaken Trump in the most. So join us. There's a good kind of catch-all answer. Join Defiance.org. If you're a Defiance.org member, text a friend right now. Tell them to join us. You can do it for $1 a month. It's easy.
Really? If you can pay $20 a month for Netflix and like that
number keeps going up, by the way.
I know. And you're feeling good about that. Like if you can pay $20 for that subscription, you at least can do $1 subscription a month to defend democracy. I mean, it's not like it goes to buying me better hoodies.
You're going to see us in these same hoodies.
The same hats, the same clothes. We're not even going to shave our beards. They're going to get very long. Monique, I will add to that question. Unfortunately, there is not much that can be done about those settlements. This is one of the really ugly pieces of corruption happening from this administration is the Trump Justice Department is settling with the Proud Boys and people like Michael Flynn and other folks who were prosecuted in previous administrations and paying them settlements, which is outrageous because, in the case of Flynn, he pled guilty, I'm pretty sure. Pretty sure he pled guilty of lying to federal agents. And now he's being awarded $1.25 million by the Justice Department. So the Justice Department has this thing called a settlement fund, which it needs to have because when the federal government needs to settle a case, it can't go back every single time to Congress. And so there's this giant slush fund, basically, which it's never occurred to any administration before this one, we could maybe use that money and go give cash to our friends that have been convicted of crimes and just do settlements with them, or people the government was prosecuting that are political allies. We could just settle with them and give them lump sums of cash. It's just wildly corrupt. And Monique, unfortunately, there's little that can be done to claw back those settlement funds once they've been dispersed and a case is dismissed with what's called prejudice. It's dismissed and can't be brought again. However, what they're not going to be able to do, Monique, is they're not going to be able to erase the fact that they've made these very obviously corrupt payoffs to their allies. They're not going to be able to erase it. And I know that doesn't satisfy you because we're not going to be able to get that $1.25 million back that should have never been paid out or shouldn't be paid out to Michael Flynn. But what we are going to be able to do, yes, is this is Xander's impeachable alert siren. We're going to be able to highlight that corruption. We're going to be able to request the paper trails behind these things. And those underlying details might show that other crimes were committed. For instance, I don't know this to be the case. If any of those settlements are reached with an understanding that we're getting something else in return, say Donald Trump is getting one of these parties to do or say something. If there's a paper trail for that, trust me, another crime has been committed. And folks are going to dig into the pardons. They're going to dig into the settlements. There will be years of investigations into these people and what looks like obvious corruption to hold them accountable. So while I can't promise you the money will get clawed back, I can promise you that these actions will not escape scrutiny and accountability down the road.
Miles Taylor, as your co-founder and someone that's helping you develop strategies for democracy, I think one of the most important things you can do for democracy is go to dinner on time with your family, so your marriage stays rock solid.
And I just realized it's 6:26. We went way into overtime today, friends. It's Monday. We're feeling fired up for democracy. Well, look, for sure, join us tomorrow, Tuesday, 5 p.m. Eastern, for another episode of Defiance Daily. But really, 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 if you're a member, please join us on Wednesday. It's going to be a great monthly member meeting. We look forward to your feedback. It helps us shape the direction we take this club. It helps us figure out the right groups to go out and surface to fund the actions that make a real difference. If you want to know, if you're new to us, you want to know what we've done, go to Defiance News and go to the action section, defiance.news, and just go look at all the things we've done every single week. This club has been busy. I'm so proud of this organization and everything you all are doing, and really excited that the members meeting will show a little bit more leg on the things that we have planned for the month ahead.
Yeah.
So we'll review some of those in a private setting with defiance.org members, and we're excited to bring those out in the world. And again, it's April Fool's Day Wednesday. Anyway, keep your eyes peeled. Thank you so much for joining, friends. As I always say, stay loud, stay brave, and stay together. We'll see you tomorrow.
See ya.